Thank you, Lance. Appreciate the opportunity. My name is Gustavo de la Fuente. I am the Executive Director of the Sandiego Tijuana Smart Border Coalition.
Okay, the media paints a different picture of Tijuana, which we know, some of us who live here, it's kind of unfair. I think it's TJ gets a bad rap. It's a crazy city, it's a lovely city, but you know, people say this is the most dangerous city in the world. I lived in Philadelphia. This is peaceful. Yeah, right? Is we're trying to thread the border, meaning that more people have to come over here from the United States to better understand the culture, better understand the business environment, its people, understanding them, and also from Tijuana to go over to the United States. So as we thread the border, as more people get more involved, and I thought that it's a really good idea for us as a company that we promote the region, the area for its capabilities. We build pretty cool apps. We work with some pretty amazing companies, you know, from Walt Disney Studios to, but we're all here in TJ, and that is there's a lot of really great talent, and there's more engineers from the United States. Actually, they're coming. They're here actually from.
If you look at the Tijuana metropolitan area and you look at Sandiego County, it's about a 60-mile distance, right, from the beach all the way to the end of the county. And in that span, you've got 9 different crossings. And together, those crossings are about 1,800 feet. So imagine that, 1,800 feet, 9 crossings, and there's 60 miles from end to end in the county. Very small, as you were saying, Lonnie, threading the needle. And it's so painful to cross that border sometimes. It's like a bad date, it's like a bad dream. You know, how do you manage that? It's very difficult to guide people when they cross the border into Mexico, and we need guidance. We need systems. We need ways of making this thing easier for people to get across. Do you know that in this largest crossing in the Western Hemisphere, we don't have accurate information as to how long it will take you to cross from Mexico to the US. Guiding people across the border, getting them back, getting people to know what the wait times are, so then we can get into predictive analytics and all that nice stuff, right? But in the meantime, we have to get started with some basic things and being done right.
There's a lot of business opportunities for both, you know, Sandiego and Tijuana, but there's also a lot of startups that can actually tackle a lot of these issues, because it's not a fundamental, oh, I got an idea or something like that, but there's some real gaps on necessity, need, that connectivity. We need to connect. Actually, well, Sandiego and TJ have a very strong relationship. There's a lot of families across the border. So if we don't solve the issue regarding accurate data, GPS for me is old and it's inaccurate. You know, Uber loses a lot of money because who hasn't had an Uber like show up like 2 blocks down the road? Yep. I personally found out the best way is, of course, like these events, like, you know, Sandiego Startup Week. You have growth hacks. You have Tijuana Inauguró, and you have Gustavo here from the Smart Border Coalition, and of course, look me up. I'm gonna give you guys a hand. I'm all about that. I want to improve the relationship between TJ and Sandiego, and also because we're trying to show the rest of Mexico and also California that when you bring the right minds, the brightest minds together, we can accomplish just about anything. And that's why I have a spacesuit right here, because it's the greatest accomplishment when you bring, no matter sex, race, whatever, it's bringing the right people together to solve problems. I personally started looking at individuals who were just as hungry as I was, and there's a lot of young entrepreneurs, the new generation of Tijuana entrepreneurs and Mexican entrepreneurs that are really driven, and that's really what got me going about TJ. It's like this fresh blood, just like what you find also in Sandiego and in California. They're just driven, they just want to do things. That's when I embarked on an incredible journey with my partner, actually Jesus. Yes, I partnered with Jesus. which is an incredible name. He's just the young guy also that he'll be talking a little bit later. Just another great individual that's very passionate, that actually helped me build an incredible legal infrastructure, legal structure, everything that we needed for this business to be incredibly legal here, both in Sandiego and in Tijuana, actually Mexico. You don't need to be like afraid or have a lot of concerns, as long as you're connecting with the right individuals that they're going to guide you through the process. It's not an overly costly process. It can be costly in other parts of the world. I mean, it's Argentina, Brazil. That's some crazy. That's a lot of red tape. Here, there's a lot less red tape. If you're looking to bring an idea to market, you test it, and you can test it in Tijuana. Like for example, the first Uber outside the United States was tested in Tijuana, by the way. So that's pretty cool, right? I mean, geez. So why not leverage TJ? When it's difficult to find the right individuals, you can also look across the border and you find some really talented people. Tijuana has like 30 years of, just say, manufacturing. So TJ has 30 years. They started with manufacturing, right? They started assembly, they went to manufacturing, they went to, now it's going to full R&D. These 30 years, they invested in the infrastructure here, the colleges and everything here. This is what really took TJ out of, just this, hey, party town, but now it's becoming a serious mecca for manufacturing, for development, and now for software development, and for healthcare, and a lot of other things. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for companies in actually Southern California to say, when things get rough and tough, when you're building your business, you can also lean on and into TJ.
But I think what you're saying is right, Lonnie. One of the things that we found that the coalition is missing in all this is sometimes the connections and the right pieces of the puzzle. The Smart Border Coalition came together years ago. It came out of something called, some of you might remember, Sandiego Dialogue, way back in the late 80s, early 90s. The Sandiego Dialogue came up with the concept of Sentry Lane. And the Sentry Lane, as you know, has been replicated all over the border. Why didn't we come up with more sentries? Why didn't we come up with more of these programs? Why didn't we come up with more solutions? We found a haphazard way of doing it, but it never really materialized into more. So having the right groups and the right people in that committee, if you will, that we're looking to create. We've been talking about this. Who do we need to have in the group that will look at the border and say, okay, what are the key challenges at the border, and how the heck do we solve them? How do we start thinking about that without going into the initial thought, which is, oh no, it's too risky. I can't get my ROI. Large companies aren't getting involved. Some defense companies do, as you know, you get involved in the border. But a lot of companies shy away from the border because they all think, the first thing they're going to think about is, oh, I have to go through the government. I have to go through the agencies. You're looking at 14 agencies on the US side, 12 agencies on the Mexican side. How do I get anything done there? Well, you have to work with some of the agencies, but you don't have to work with everybody all of the time. And to get together a group whereby you've got some private entities, you've got some startup people, you've got some very bright minds there from both sides of the border, particularly engineers on the Tijuana side. You connect them with a couple of the universities here, and I'm thinking about, again, just because we had an event last week at UCSD. The UCSD is tremendous here. They have global connections. El Colegio de la Frontera Norte, we're just talking about Colegio, we're talking about CETIS. About some of the universities here that with some companies, with access to investors, which UCSD, USD, Sandiego State have, we could really think about this in terms of brainstorming. Okay, what are the key issues? What's the uniqueness about our border? What's so hard about the border? We don't want to be a way station for the Bay Area. That's not what we're about. This is about having a unique. What is the uniqueness of this area? We have a border. Whatever you think about that border, a wall or a beer, or going to the
wine valley,
whatever it is.
Tacos.
But what you got is something where you say, okay, so we got all these issues going on. How the heck do we solve them? And we have the right people in the room to solve them. And a lot of you can participate in that committee, if you will. You want to call it that.
we're afraid of cultures, and I think this is one of the things that borders do, separate people. And I truly think that we need to start shifting toward a borderless kind of society. And I think technology can keep us borderless. I think technology can actually help us, actually businesses from both sides contributing to this kind of dialogue. And I think this is where we're going to find some really good solutions and also business opportunities and the next generation of companies.
No, I agree. Some people call this, Tom Friedman recently wrote an article in the New York Times. He called these complex coalitions. This is a complex coalition, but it's not really so hard if you think about the fact that most of us come across every day and we do things here, we do things there. It's really not so complicated, but at the end of the day, you do have to, it's all about the relationships. More so than the money initially, you have to have the relationships. The relationships are there, the ideas are there, the money will come after it. The money's on a lot of that money can be across the border or wherever, globally, but if we have the right context, we set up the right problem sets, we can solve some of these problems. But again, we have to sit down and say, okay, which are our priorities? How are we going to solve this? How are we going to get funding for something like this? And I think that we have forums to do that. The Smart Border Coalition is one of those forums.
One question, to be straightforward. How can we start? I'm an entrepreneur. I want to participate in something. How can we start? You have your experiences. You have Smart Border Coalition. How can we start? How can we participate?
But I think the best way is there's a lot of meetups here, different types. Some really good meetups also in San Diego. But I think starting with Startup Week is a really great source for people to start connecting with people here across the border. Tijuana Innovadora is another one. That's another really great source. The guys at Growth Hacks, they pretty much know this area. Guillermo, another great source, and of course with you at the Smart Border Coalition. How we're starting basically is just initiating these kind of conversations and with these events with the Smart Border Coalition. We're starting to tackle that. We're starting to really ideating, connecting, and also bringing some pretty influential individuals. One could not be here today. David Broomer. He was the founder of 5D Robotics. He's got like 22 patents on autonomous mobility. This guy's incredible. He won the autonomous mobility in New York City, and we're looking to do some tests here across the border. So, if those individuals are actually want to participate in something like that, just look me up, look at Gustavo, and but also, I think it's a really good idea. Even after this event, I think having some follow-up meetups for anybody who's actually interested to keep the dialogue going, but at the same time start validating those ideas. And if we can actually validate those ideas and find product market fit for any of those ideas, it's a lot easier to find funding. And I think that's what we're kind of looking at this to also be a business opportunity for everybody.
I think the question here, Jeremy, I think you have to have a core group of people kind of moving this. And you have to have that. And you have to have forums where people meet and discuss this. But initially you have probably a small group of people get together and say, okay, what are the key issues? And everybody being an expert on something or knowing people who might bring in something to the table. So it's really, I think, about a core group of, 8 or 9 people. But I think we have to bring the universities in. We've done this with UCSD, and to give you an example, last week, some of you know, we had a border innovation challenge. And the challenge was to get companies to think about, okay, what are the key problems in terms of getting across the border for cargo, for people, for vehicles, and what can we do about it? And so it was competition. We awarded the prizes last week at UCSD. But so, and again, a plug for UCSD in the sense that if you have something like the Institute for the Global Entrepreneur at UCSD, and you have accelerators there, and you have connections to a bunch of alumni and companies all over the world, and in San Diego, by the way, a lot of companies, solar turbines, cubic transportation systems, Lidos, Qualcomm, of course. So you've got so many different companies in the San Diego area, because you've got all these great assets, and yet we haven't been able to take those assets and say, well, how do we solve the problems of border with some of these companies? So again, I think it's a core group, but with very expert, knowledgeable people to kind of guide the way and start planting the seed and say, okay, what are the key problems we're having, and who can solve them, and go at this that way.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question? No?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, sure. Okay. But the thing is, okay, you already told us how to start. What if I already have a company and it's, I don't know, we're 2 people, we have our own company, we do something else and we want to participate. How can we participate?
Well, first of all, a conversation wouldn't be bad. I think there's some very good people, great ideas. Maybe you have a prototype, maybe there's something there. The coalition has on its board some of the most recognized names in Tijuana and Sandiego. Okay, you got Sempra Energy, there's Solar Turbines, I was saying, UCSD. On the Mexican side, we have Tijuana Innovadora on our board. We have Jorge Curi, Aves Aluminio on our board. Vesta, a number of companies. Now, not everybody has the same appetite for risk among the board members, but doesn't mean that we couldn't pitch something to a board like that to talk about, okay, here's a great idea. You want good ideas? You want a smart border or smart border 2.0? Well, this is a smart idea that needs financing, that needs money. And so this is a way to do it. But again, it's a conversation that we need to have. And again, this is just from the point of view of the Smart Border Coalition, but there's many others out there. I think that we have to narrow it down to, as I said, a core group of organizations that are pushing in the same direction and are sharing information. One of the problems that we have in this region is that we don't share enough information. We're too jealous about our information. I'll tell you a story about that in a moment, but you might want to say something about that.
Yeah, it's that fear. There's the fears like, well, we're here on this side, we're not going to share a lot more because we fear competition, And I think that's another thing that people don't like to share data. And the border is the one that creates the most amount of data. If you think about it, the amount of cars, vehicles, and the amount of goods, money. I mean, TJ is part of the $260 billion mega region. I mean, why? I mean, we should be sharing this data. We should be connecting and collecting and being able to predict behaviors on that data. But unless we have accurate data, just going back to that point, we're going to do predictability on bullshit. That's exactly how I like to do it.
Let me give you an example of that. I don't know how much time we have, but let me give you an example. So some months ago, 18 months ago, we approached, the Smart Border Coalition approached a number of transportation companies and customs brokers, and we said, okay, what is the problem that you have at the border? Well, we don't really know what the wait times are. Sometimes the lines are this long, sometimes they're that long, sometimes SAT, the Mexican nation, doesn't know, sometimes he doesn't know because of the way they measure their times. And we said, okay, well, why don't you, with the industry, provide us with information and we can coordinate it with you, GPS, use GPS information, and we can put it together anonymously, not every vehicle you have, not every transportation, not every truck you have, and consolidate the information and tell the financial community, here's the information. Here's what the wait times are for standard truck, for fast, or for empties. Okay? So some of the companies share the information, very few though. The rest of the companies don't want to share the information because they think we're going to steal the information and give it to somebody else. I understand that. But if you do it in an intelligent way where you take maybe a fraction of their fleet rather than their whole fleet and you put together maybe 400 of these trucks, you got 3,500 or so crossing every day, you get a good sample size for all of the different lanes, you're going to have that 24/7. You'll be able to tell not only the companies but the SAT, CBP, exactly what's going on, so that they can look at that and say, oh, I have to change my operations to accommodate for that circumstance or that situation, that problem I have at the border. And we've lived through this in the last 2 months now with the reassignment of CBP officers. the Southwest United States, that's been a huge problem. I mean, 4-hour waits, 7-hour waits, trucks not getting across the border. How much money have we lost in that span of time? A tremendous amount of money.
Produce, going back to that, they've been losing a lot of money in the border. You know, there's
Okay, so remember, question.
Okay, I have an accessory company. We're actively searching for manufacturing globally. Probably ran into we really wanted to work in TJ. I mean, accessibility, of course, the beer and the tacos that you guys were talking about, a big part of it. But we found that, just navigating the binational, as you're saying, other countries seem to be a lot more aggressive with how their governments are competing with business. So to talk about Tijuana as like an individual component, it makes a lot of sense. And then when you start looking around, there's other things that make a lot more sense. I'm still trying to find out how to Tijuana to make sense, right? Because it's like obviously an active engagement. It's like I like to keep that pretty close. That's the difficult part for me. So it's like, what is the government really doing then to help fight those border times and anything like that, subsidizing steel, holds, or whatever it may be, is like posing some challenges to actually select Tijuana and how to make sense.
I actually, with this new government, this new president, it looks like he's focusing on the border, and I'm noticing he's supposedly, he's focusing on making sure that we have greater opportunities here at the border by lowering taxes. I don't know if that actually transpired, but I believe that there's an intent by the Mexican government to make it easier for companies to set up companies here at the border, and also make it to flow a little bit easier. I think that the intent is there. So I understand your frustration, by the way. I totally get you. I think there's some questions there I'd definitely like to ask you later, because I might be able to point you with the right individuals to actually help you kind of close the gap. I think that you're facing. I'd like to understand a little bit more what you're facing, and because we do have some pretty good amount of connections, and knowing the right individuals that actually have your best interest is actually critical here. Everybody can help you, but are they really, are they on the same path as you, or the same wavelength, and also the same mission and vision that you're looking for your business?
I think, to Lonnie's point, with the change of the administration in Mexico, you see more of an emphasis on trying to solve some of the infrastructure and some of the transportation problems at the border. You see more of that now, and I'll give you an example of that. But I also gave you the other side of it, I guess the other side of the coin. The positive side. Very recently, the new administration, of course, have been in power for 6 months exactly. So the new customs administrator for Mexico started a process whereby he would go to each border city and we would sit down with him and discuss the key issues and the key infrastructure projects, and they prioritized it. So that had not been done. This aduanas administrator was coming every three weeks to Tijuana. He was going to Laredo, he was going to Nogales, he was going to the ports, but he was spending the time there. That was historic. I mean, that was something that we had never seen. What's the problem with that? Well, that he no longer has that position as of last Thursday. So he's now Undersecretary of the Interior of Mexico. So now we're waiting for the new person, right? So there has been a new person chosen. But then again, we have to, in a way, we have to start from scratch. So I'm not a big believer in government in that sense, either side of the border. So this is where civic society, this is where we have to pick it up and say, okay, how do we do this? You have, in your case, you're looking for opportunities, manufacturing, what have you. It might be good for you to talk to some of the associations here. It could be Index, it could be the DAC or the Tijuana EDC. I would assume that, I don't know if you've actually spoken with them, but there's organizations that give you a hand there.
Gentlemen, thank you. My name is Bruce Long. I own a company called Perfecto Coffee, and we're extremely extraordinary company that's doing something that's new in the coffee industry.
I love coffee, so
yes.
You got me.
Thank you. It's a coffee ATM, fully automated.
An ATM that's puts out coffee.
Quality coffee.
Okay, I want that.
Absolutely.
I'll put it in my office.
So we're working with USC right now. I've got 20 engineers, master level engineers working on the project. We're about 80% done with the application. We're about 30% done with that kiosk. It's unmanned. How active is this startup border coalition that you're speaking of? Because one of the problems I'm running into is having access to capital. Okay, and we've got an extraordinary team. We're a team of 5 now, on as far as executive level, and I would like to speak to you more offline about the concept of where we are and what we're doing. However, I want to put the information out, knowing that this coalition that you're speaking of is a pretty active one, because I'm an active person. I like getting things done, and what I'm running into is I'm talking. However, people aren't driven to do things financially, but it's a great concept, and I'd love to share it with you offline. It's called Perfecto Golf, by the way.
Perfecto.
So I'm willing.
You're selling it. You're doing a really good job, dude.
I'm going to put my information in the back as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to talk offline. Thanks.
Yeah, I think he brings up a really good point. Sometimes not knowing, having, again, having these kind of discussions, just being able to be aware, and I really appreciate you sharing that, bringing that to light. Regarding funding and stuff like that, that's something that I deal with almost, on a daily basis with the companies that we work with, and we help them build their ideas, bring them to market. And one of the critical things is, do they have product market fit? And I think the validation of your idea is critical. And if you already have clients that really want to purchase it, and you have a really good plan, just guidance, the right individuals, connecting you with the right individuals that are going to actually look at your idea as a real tangible concept here. I think obviously you already have a proof of concept out. Okay. Did you already have your product out?
Application is, and I've been over 2,000 customers. Me and my team.
Okay.
So we have market fit.
Yeah, get him, Mike. This is a good conversation.
We have market fit. We've done over 2,000 customers. It's just the funding that we're running into. However, this coalition that you speak of, my question with you: how active are they? Are they engaged, or are they really, are they to do what they
Let me try to answer that question.
Yeah.
So, the main reason why the coalition I represent, got together in the first place was civic engagement. Okay, some people will say, well, what is that? What is civic engagement? Okay, so there's a number of people there who maybe made a lot of money and who said, you know what, I care about the border. I want to do something about the border, and you know what, I have a friend, I have a peer group or a person on the other side of the border in Tijuana, or Tijuana in Sandiego, that I want to meet with. I want to socialize with. I want to meet them, and I got to see them every couple months. And let's talk about the border and what we can do about it. That was really what got this thing started. So it's the civic side. Now, what I see in this, and when I see a lot of people like this today, and I'm sure hundreds, thousands at the summit week, then you say, okay, so you've got a bunch of engaged, civically minded people. Great. So how do we leverage the border? So you have this business. So we have to create a side door here where it says, we're innovative too. We have to be innovative because we have all these people, great ideas, want to make it happen, and you have a good viable product. How do we do that? So part of what we need to do as a civic organization is bring in that possibility. So we need to work on that. To answer your question, I don't have that answer for you. I don't have the magic wand, but I do say, we definitely need those types of projects because it gets people excited about monetizing the border. Okay, how do we monetize that border? And then some people will say, what do you mean you can't do that? Sure you can. Sure you can. Everybody does it. Anybody who trades does it all the time. But there's opportunities there.
Actually, I want to finish something that's really interesting. So you want to take advantage of the border. I think it's a really good idea. It's just going through my head here, just thinking about this. Everybody loves coffee. And I think to test your idea in Tijuana, it'll give scalability, let's just say, provide a scalability model for this and for potential clients that are going to say, well, how far can this critical mass go, right? How can, and also on that exit strategy is the international thing. So it's a good idea, I think, to look into TJ to test out, and so you have now more of an international feel, makes the whole thing sexier, and and I think that's how you can get this financial. You can leverage that aspect, and actually, by the way, there's some really creative people here, marketing and so forth. And if you're bootstrapping, TJ's amazing. There's some really amazing designers. I'm looking at one of those guys here right now. I forget your Jose. Yeah. Marketing guy. There's a lot of designers, and so I think having these kind of when we have these kind of meetups. My office, just letting you know that I host a Python community group here, and so we have a nice little space for like 40 people. So my office is open. So how do we start this? Somebody has to take a step forward. Somebody has to take a step forward and actually start doing this, and that's what we're actually doing now.
Okay, so we're getting to our last 5 minutes. Somebody else have a question? Questions?
There's currently an infrastructure project that I'm aware of that's going on at the border where they're trying to create a building that's sits on the boundary and you can access it from either side, right?
Las Puertas.
Okay, Las Puertas. So what's the view from here? Because as far as I know, as heavily as involved I am in the business community in Sandiego, no one's talking about that. So I mean, are people aware that that's going on? Actually, the EDC was the only one that brought that up to me, and I see that as like a big benefit, but not if it's going to be an unmarketed, empty space.
Well,
It's because something like that, once you build it, you have to come out strong with it. Let it be known from the very beginning that it's a hub for business. So is Mexico doing anything to take advantage of that? Because it's something, I think they're spending like a decent amount of money on it, but there's no pull. I have no reason or understanding of why it even exists yet. And I'm one of few that even know it exists.
So the Dos Puertas project is led by, I'll remember the name in a second, but that project was presented in our group last year, okay? And one of the reasons why you don't see them enough is that they don't have all the funding that they need in the first place. Now, I think the idea is interesting. Carl Nettleton is the founder, and he's putting it together. So, again, he needs funding. He's not at that stage yet where you can just start promoting this thing because he needs a presidential permit. He needs the Mexican side agencies and the U.S. side agencies to say, yes, you can actually establish this. That takes time. That's where government has a big role. So, in a way, we have to work with government. Even though I don't believe in big government, we have to work with the agencies we have. There's no other way around it in many instances. But there's still business to be had without having to work with the government in the first place. I mean, if you're exporting things or importing things, you do work with governments, but it's a lot easier. It's a lot more, But that project is quite interesting. I can connect you to if you want to know more about it. But it's because they don't have enough funding yet. It hasn't come together.
Learn something new.
So I heard over the last decade or so, there's a lot of really great manufacturing goes on in Tijuana. A lot of companies have educated a lot of people on the best quality and the best techniques. And I'm also aware of a drone company that got its start down here, where Chris Anderson, I believe.
Yeah, I know Chris.
Got all of his work done originally. I'm leading a company that was developing a new motor, electric motor for drones and aircraft. And what resources are down here to do prototypes and that kind of a thing in a quality, really innovative way?
Yeah, so I had to find embedded people. I had to find, I was working with some people at AOL and actually one of the head of engineers there, and they said, well, Lonnie, do you know any embedded guys? I'm like, well, geez, no. But then I started searching and I found out there's a lot. You got Samsung here. I mean, you got all these big companies. You have some really serious, like Objective-C guys, non-technical people here. I don't want to blow their brains with this stuff. There's a really good amount of talent that actually needs more access to newer technologies, projects. Usually they'll just sit there for how long, and they'll just be doing the same thing, repetitive, and there's anything new. So yes, there's engineers, there's really good talent, and there's a hunger here like I've never seen before, especially in TJ, of people who are actually driven, they want to learn something new. And that's why I love this place so much, because I think there's a really good culture, and I think that kind of extends from the United States, and I think it's because a lot of people from TJ cross the border, and I think there's a lot of that bleed over, and I think there's this dynamic environment happening here that you're going to see more technical folks, even software engineers or embedded engineers, and guys who are electronics and mechatronics. I think there's all these types. So yes. How do you find them? I know some individuals can actually help you out. Actually connect you with the right. I mean, well, actually, the universities. I think that's a really good way. So,
I think the universities, yes, but I don't know if I don't know who you've spoken with. But again, we can talk about that. There's some people we know. We can connect you. There's some associations we can connect you with. But I guess specifically, what is it that you need so that we have a better fit for you? Aerospace engineer, so I can connect you to a person who is the leader of the aerospace cluster in Tijuana. His name is Tomás Ibaja. I mean, he could be. I'm just saying.
Okay, so thank you everybody. That's the time that we have for this panel. Remember, they're experts. They're here. Talk to them.
I'm not an expert.
Okay. As long as you can stand here and say what you say, I think when we start the entrepreneurial script, everybody's like, I don't know nothing, and suddenly you're the reference. And so that's why I can say you're experts. These are the field they're working on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
So just to finish up, any message that can be provided to entrepreneurs, anything they can say, this is a bi-national thing, this is how I can start it out, this is how I can finish it up, this is how you can get in touch with me. What can you say to every entrepreneur right here?
From personal experience, I'm going to share this with everybody. When you're doing a startup, and I'm going to talk about what we did here, we weren't sure. I mean, we knew that we were doing something completely different, and we faced annihilation. One of our first clients basically decided not to pay us, okay? And we employed a lot of people, and we're like, holy shit, we're done. But we persevered. It's a very emotional thing for me still. We were able to go from almost annihilation to almost $2 million today in less than 2 years in revenue. And because you have the right people doing the right things in the right time. And there's a lot of courage, engineers that believed in our mission and our vision overall. And so when I say, sometimes for startups and you're bootstrapping, we did this from zero, by the way. It can be very difficult. You feel like it's over, but I think the biggest thing that you can actually dig down deep into your soul, no matter what, this is your idea, you're gonna make it work. No matter what anybody says, you're gonna keep moving forward. We move forward, and I'm very proud, without getting emotional.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think, just based on where I'm coming, my perspective, it's from a civic organization, it's really about the connections and how quickly you can connect. A lot of it is timing, of course, but it's the connections you can make, it's the people you are going to meet, and you're looking for talent, you're looking for money, you're looking for somebody who you're going to inspire to get you to another level. And no, I've been here for 9 years. I grew up in Nogales on the Mexican side of the border, and came here 9 years ago and started a business in the UTC area in San Diego, and co-working facility really was what I did for a while. But I used to be in telecommunications, and so you work in different family businesses over the years and what have you, but also some startups. And so a lot of this is about who you know, how quickly you can get this thing to market, and people to help you with it. So that's what we're here for. I mean, the coalition, that's the name of the game. The stakeholders, the people who go to our meetings, the meetings are free. This is not, we don't collect any fees. The people who pay our fees are our members, or the board members. They pay a yearly fee. So the stakeholders is everybody here. Everybody who wants to go to meetings, they can go to meetings. It's really a question of what your main questions are, what the issues are, and perhaps we can bring them out in a meeting or several meetings and figure it out. But I think it's all about connections for me.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Gustavo, Bonnie, thank you very much. We're gonna take a big applause for them. 10-minute break. How to capitalize on your drink. That's gonna be our next panel. Okay, 10-minute break.